Well, this is a photo of a group meeting. It was in the summer of either 1935 or 1936 at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Green, Seacroft, Glyn Road, Peacehaven. And it was a meeting of the adult school movement in the local area, which I think includes as far as Brighton and Hove. But probably a coachload of people had come to his house for the afternoon to have a little chat and tea, and there were a few locals there, and some children I recognised, I went to school with. I'm there on the right-hand side of the picture, standing next to my grandfather, who is seated, Mr. Hellier. He's not actually holding a baby, although it looks like it in the picture. I've looked up something about the adult school movement, and it sort of followed on, I think, from the development of Sunday schools, which, you know, were sort of a big thing in the 19th century. But when state education took over, the role for the teaching children to read by means of Sunday schools was taken over by the state schools. But adults, some of them were illiterate, and therefore they valued the opportunity to be able to go to classes to read and write. The particular emphasis, I must say, was on, because it had a religious background, was to be able to read the Bible. So that was the main thrust of it, always had been. But I think as time went on, and certainly in the late 19th century and the earlier part of the 19th century, or the 20th century, I should say, it was the sort of a prayer meeting, a little fellowship meeting, mainly in people's homes, on a Sunday afternoon. And my grandfather used to go along there fairly regularly to Mr. Green's house, with probably about half a dozen or more local people, and it was just a little sort of Bible study with reading and prayer and refreshments. And then I say once a year it was sort of thrown open to children as well, and we either went on a coach outing. I remember going once with my grandfather to a big garden in Hove, where there were a lot of children as well, running races and things like that. But on this occasion it was held in Peacehaven.
You said it was in the garden of, was it Mr. Green?
Yes.
Tell us something about Mr. Green. Who was he?
Well, he was a local plumber and decorator. And he was, it was quite sort of well known in Peacehaven. He's one of the earliest residents, and he lived there until he died. I'm not quite sure when that was. It was probably just after the last war. But it was 1935. I remember him quite well. Yes, he came to our house and did repairs and things like that for the when there was a burst pipe or whatever.
I remember you telling me a story about him coming on Christmas Eve, I think.
Oh yes, I do remember an occasion when the hot water system went wrong just before Christmas, and we called him in, and he diagnosed that it was the back boiler, which had filled up with silt, so it wasn't heating the water properly. And therefore he had to dismantle it, and because he couldn't get his big hand into the lid of the boiler, he asked me to put my hand in to scrape out all the muck.
So you're being apprenticed at quite an early age?
I suppose yes. I've forgotten. I'm probably in about 7 or 8 or 9. I don't know.